Good morning. During the COVID crisis, have you had lots of those who would ever have thought moments? Well, you can put this one in that category because who would ever have thought I'd be talking about the famous German theologian Rudolf Bultmann through a midweek musing? When I was studying Bultmann in the 70s, he's one of those Marmite figures. Those on the more liberal wing regarded him as a hero, whilst those on the evangelical wing regarded him as close to the devil incarnate. My professor was firmly a devotee of Bultmann, and he took the opportunity presented by the publication of Bultmann's commentary of St. John's Gospel to present a series of lectures on this subject. I recall vividly his comment about some of the more evangelical theologians like Hunter and Barclay, who he said spent too much time fishing in Scottish rivers, avoiding all the major problems of St. John's Gospel. Cue the sound of pencils being thrown on desks in disgust at his comment. Who says theology is a boring subject? We are reminded every year that the professor was right about the problems of St. John's Gospel, because every year at the end of the service of 9 lessons and carols, we hear the words, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." Poetic words, but if we are honest, not the easiest ones to get our heads around. That is, unless you had the opportunity to read the mammoth first chapter of Bultmann's commentary. I found it to be in many ways as impenetrable as the words in the Gospel itself. However, in that chapter he seeks to show that John was deliberately echoing concepts that were in currency at the time that the Gospel was written. By doing this, he sets a context to that passage and enables us to see how revolutionary the words "and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us" would have been to those who heard it first in first century Palestine. What was previously a philosophy had been transformed into a living reality. The lectures inspired me to choose Bultmann as one of my subjects in my final year at university, and a small group of us spent time considering his work in more depth with the professor. It did not instantly make everything clearer, but as with all good learning journeys, the more I got to know and the more effort I put in, the penny eventually dropped. In those days, my learning sanctuary was the reference library in central Leeds. If you've never been, I recommend you go once the lockdown is over. It's a real haven. One afternoon I was in there studying Bultmann and I was struggling, so I gathered some of my papers, took them into the Victoria pub behind the town hall, sat down with them and a pint, and the penny dropped. Those who had thrown their pencils down in protest at what he said were wrong about him, because whilst Bultmann was exploring radical ideas, at the heart of his theology was a belief in the centrality of the Jesus event, that in Jesus and in the saving moments of his cross and resurrection, all the past was realized and fulfilled, and the future mapped out. That revelation had a huge impact beyond the essay I was writing. I have said to so many organizations and people that it's difficult to sort out the present unless you have an idea of the future and you have absorbed the lessons of the past. In one sense, like most advice, it's glaringly obvious. But I am now working with lots of young people on their fledgling businesses, and because they are understandably so absorbed and busy with the present and all the excitement associated with it, it's hard to get them to write a business plan for the next 3 years. However, if they don't, I know from my experience they will make bad decisions in the present. Maybe I should quote to them some of Bultmann's words. The present is the moment of decision, and by the decision taken, the yield of the past is gathered in, and the meaning of the future is chosen. Which is why this present is such a challenging time to be creating future plans, whether you be the Prime Minister or each one of us, stuck in our homes trying to decide what is the best thing to do. The pandemic has made the present so difficult in this and in so many other ways. So more words from the theologian that might help. The genuine life of man is always before him. It is always to be apprehended, to be realized. Humankind is always on the way. Each hour is questioned and challenged by its future. All actions are risks. We now know lots about risks as we watch our politicians, with the help of scientists, make the best calculation for the present. Who would have thought that a journey with Bultmann, which ended with a revelation of a painting the Victoria, would have ended up mattering so much to the rest of my life?